Oh, hello, good afternoon. It's 6:15, just after. Sorry, a bit slow to get started this afternoon, but 6:15 here in Portugal and over there in the UK, where John and Anna are. How are you doing, Anna? And the head gardener's here as well, look, from Portugal too. Very relaxed this afternoon. How are you doing, Anna?
Yeah, doing all right. It's been a bit of a mad day as far as appointments and things go. Went out thinking it was dentist, got the wrong day, and ended up having an eye appointment instead. But that was all good. And so yeah, quite a out and about sort of day, and just back from a Timoth weekend as well, which is pretty full on, and had my first experience of bowls as well. So there was a bit of an open day going on. So yeah, had a bit of a stiff arm the next day, but all good again. And yes, I'm probably ready to get stiff hands now with a bit of keyboard practice for tomorrow, and then yeah, working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So yeah, all the usual.
Fantastic. Now, you say, sorry, let's dwell on that for a moment because bowling, if it's crown green bowling, is a gardening
Yes.
thing. Oh, okay. So, it's not a gardening thing. Lee's shaking his head. Were you not ever? Were you
It's
not
not crown
forced?
green. It's not crown green. No, that's a
What's
northern thing. They
Is
play
it?
flat green. They play flat green in the south. They're soft.
Bowling politics already on the Get Out of Happy Homesteaders show this afternoon. Okay, so have you been involved in that, head gardener? Were you a groundsman for any bowling clubs?
Many happy years maintaining bowling greens. I used to love it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Fantastic. So there you know, Anna, people like Lee behind the scenes. Okay, so we will move on. We've got loads of photos to share and lots of questions, I'm sure. Crown green is what, the one with the hump in the middle then, and you have to work with that obstacle. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you get a weight in your bowl as well, so you can accommodate for the crown with the weight in the bowl. Where down south they play flat green, and it's not a weighted ball; it's just a straight line.
Beginners.
No, that's got a bit of a curve on it, and those down south like in a straight line. So.
That's like life, really, isn't it? John, how are you? Have you ever played? Have you ever bowled? I mean, you're in the wrong county, aren't you? It's Walter Raleigh country. He's sort of Spanish Armada coming in, and he was playing bowls, wasn't he?
Supposedly, yes.
Supposedly.
Yeah, I think he might have been actually. Anyway, yeah, I have played bowls a bit before. We did it. I played it in school once, not like competitively or anything, but
must be a Devon thing.
I did go to school with somebody who does play it competitively, or did though.
Wow.
I think that was bowls. Yeah. I think I'm remembering that right. Anyway.
Okay. Are you doing well?
Huh?
Are you doing well? Are you well this afternoon?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Fantastic. Okay, excellent stuff. OLP's in, Pete's in, Jason, and we have Matty, Louise, and Thunderduck's in as well. But that's a houseplant questions as well. So good afternoon to all of you and others who have yet to disclose their identity. Lee, how are you? What's Lisbon looking like this afternoon?
A little bit windy, a little bit cloudy, but pretty much perfect. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, because the weather changed this afternoon on Silver Coast. We had some downpours, and it's been a bit cloudy and a bit windy, but it's not so bad, is it? We know we've got lots of lovely sunshine to come.
We had a couple of drips. This morning, but it never turned into anything. Not enough to water the lawn, anyway.
All right, fantastic. We have pictures to go to, but maybe, Anna, let's check with you and see if we've got any questions to kick things off with this evening on the Get Out and Grow project, the Happy Homesteaders here on Expats Portugal. We'll need you unmuted as well, Anna. Oh, fantastic.
Just seen one come in. I think we have got a photo question. I might need to double check which one it is. I think most people have sent one in the Portugal area, but I've either had the description Central or Portugal, so I'm not quite sure whereabouts in the area otherwise. But Geraldine Taylor has sent one in. I think this one might have had a picture. I'm not too sure. I think this one might be the photo question. It's based on spider mites. Have a young mixed orchid trees, 1 to 2 years old, citrus, apples, pears, cherry, plums, peach and apricot, have found tiny mites on leaves of most trees. Have only encountered mites in a greenhouse before. Not sure of best treatments.
Okay, interesting question. Did you catch all of that, Lee?
Yes, spider mites on citrus fruit trees, but young trees. So I'd be hesitant to put any chemicals on them when they're being such young trees. So we'll go back to a backpack with the wash up liquid and water mix, and that should pretty much get rid of the spider mites. If that doesn't work, get a little bit of Jay's fluid, add that in with the water as well, and give it another spray. Do it every fortnight for the next few weeks. Maybe 4 or 5 applications should get rid of them off. Yeah. Okay,
and spider mites are the little red ones, are they?
Yeah, they're little brick mites. They're little tiny little things.
Okay.
They don't do a great deal of damage early this time of year, but if you leave it, it becomes a lot of them. And then they do start to bite the bark, and the tree will start to produce sap, and it will wilt a little bit. So they do need treated.
All right, fantastic.
I just saw there was an update on that question as well. Literally just before we went on, a drip irrigation is just been installed apparently.
Oh, okay. And is that's connected with it? Is it?
I think so. Yes.
Well, we'll work our way through the questions in the chat and see if we can tie those two together. Then
the irrigation being added won't have caused the spider mites.
Okay.
It will help because it'll make the tree stronger as well. So,
okay, excellent stuff. All right, let's see who's in this evening then. Hola, boa tarde, lovely gogas. There are gumpers and there are galgas or gogas. Get out and growers. Very good, nice one, Matty. Thunder Ducks in as well. Boa tarde, alegria, jardineros. Very good. And Matty's got a question. Let's go with this then straight away. Thank you, Matty. On Facebook, I recently saw a video about vertical gardening. What you guys are thinking about that, and is that something one should or should not do on a farm in Portugal for veggies? I mean, pros and cons, vertical gardening.
It's the future. It's going to be done. It's going to be done more and more, purely because you can fit more into a smaller space. Yeah. I've seen. First time I've seen it was probably on an agricultural basis. It was probably about 12, 13 years ago in Scotland, and they had what looked like drain guttering, but hundreds of them, and that was for strawberries. And they were growing strawberries on vertical rails racks in the open air. They would have a tunnel for the winter, and then they would just grow all the way through the summer with them. So you can, if you think you can rack them, and you've got maybe 10 racks, so you've got 10 rows of strawberries in the same space. You would have one on the ground. But it does take a lot of water, which is going to be an issue in Portugal and the rest of the world in the future. They have no issue with that, Scott. But, it's a good idea. It costs a lot to set up, but once you're up and running, you're producing 10 times the crop in the space. You know, it's a space saving device. So, it's going to.
Yeah, fair enough. And is it going to be good to grow against the building in terms of insulation and giving a little bit of respite from the damp, from the heat, and weathering as well if you cover your outside walls with some sort of growing?
That's a little different. That's more horticulture in the garden against a wall, vertical going up a wall. And I've never been keen on that.
Really? Why not?
Well, we already suffer with damp a lot in Portugal. And anytime when you're spraying water onto the side of a building and it's not getting sunlight, it's not getting fresh air to the building, then that's going to cause problems in the future. I don't like growing plants up houses to start with. Wisteria, bougainvilleas. If I see them up a house, it makes me shiver. So,
what? Because eventually it's going to cause more harm than good.
Yeah, it looks pretty to start with, but the maintenance of it is hard work, and it causes more damage to brickwork and plasterwork than you can imagine.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Matty, for thinking of us with that. And you did send us an FB link. Sorry, I didn't get around to seeing that today. It's been quite a day today. Another houseplant question from T Duck. My Dracaena, is that dragon plant? needs fertilizer with no fluoride or superphosphate. Can you recommend something specific? I've had no luck reading the labels at Continent. Well, there's an added dimension to the problem there. You can't actually translate the labels in Portuguese store. But why would fertilizers have fluoride, and what is superphosphate?
Superphosphate is it's another additive to put in all general fertilizers. I've never had an issue with mine giving them a general fertilizer. They grow quite well. So although the label says to be careful, it's the same with orchids, you know, about using still water and stuff like that. I kind of ignore the pattern on it. Just use a general. But I always get a good quality fertilizer. I don't buy the cheap stuff. I always like to spend that little bit extra on fertilizer for the house plants. But yeah, I've had no problem using general fertilizer from Continent as well. Continent stuff. So.
All right, so maybe a little less of it, but don't spoil them too much by buying them all kinds of specialty business. Okay, and T-Duck goes on to say, and thoughts on foliar feeding house and balcony plants. Is that a spray feed to go on the leaves?
Yeah, I don't do it personally, although I do clean my leaves regular. I have a small water spray, and I've quite regularly just spray the whole plant and wipe it down with a damp cloth. They seem to appreciate it, and it keeps them looking nice as well.
Okay.
But when you're doing that, it gives you the opportunity to look into the plant and check for insects and disease as well. So it's always good practice. And at Continent, they do have an aerosol leaf fees substance in an aerosol can, but I've never used it, so no opinion on it.
You can get that. The other advice for T-Duck was to make sure he's got his glasses on, which is what Mrs. Duck tells him as well. Fantastic. John, Anna, jump in anytime you want if you see anything that grabs your interest. Botard, I've lots of early root veg ready to pull, says Deagle. I'm looking at advice on dry sand storage. Not sure best way to prolong my first harvest. So let's have a look at what he's pulling out of the ground. This is quite amazing. And do forgive me if I mix it up with your pictures incoming, Louise, but I think we're okay here. Here are some lovely pictures from Deagle's garden in Belfast. Potatoes grown in sacks and in pots. Very good. It's all patio business here. And some lovely leaves, salad leaves by the look of them. And maybe some tomato plants there in the greenhouse section of the garden. Yeah, I'm thinking tomatoes there. But looking lovely and green over there, Deagle. Fantastic news. Sand storage then for this harvest, Lee. What do you reckon?
He's done a fantastic job for a patio gardener. I do like people that do it. It looks brilliant. I've only ever really used sand storage for carrots because I used to grow a lot of carrots and try and save them for as long as possible. So you get a big tray, you put a small bed of dry sand in, you put one layer of carrots on, then a sheet of newspaper over the top, then another layer of sand on top of that, then a sheet of newspaper over the top, and then carry on and carry on. So you can stack them quite high. Always make sure you cut as much green foliage off as possible when you're storing them as well. And if you're storing your spuds, properly make sure you wash them down and don't leave them for too long. You can't store potatoes as long as you can store carrots.
Okay. So you should wash potatoes before you store them.
Yeah, because it's the opportunity of adding fungus into the bed that you store. It's called a bed. The tray is the bed, so you're adding fungus into it. So make sure you wash all your veg, not just potatoes. Carrots as well need a proper good scrubbing. I like to air dry my onions, and I did it in England as well. I like to tie them up and hang them up in the greenhouse. They seem to store better up there. Same as garlic, that stores better just by tying them and hanging them. But yeah, potatoes, carrots, any of the real root veg. Beetroot stores quite well in sand. So it's a good way. It's a good way to maintain a supply going into. What you want to be doing is starting your next crop now. So you're storing your spuds and your carrots whilst you're growing another crop. Then you can eat the way through till your next ones are ready to eat.
Good advice. Good advice. And not all sand is created equal, is it? I mean, if you buy sharp sand from a builder's merchant, that can be quite wet and then there's sand that you would want your kids to be playing in a sand pit. What sort of sand are we talking about?
I actually always use sharp sand.
Right.
Because it actually dries. It dries quicker, and it dries really dry as well.
Okay.
So I used to buy it and store it in the greenhouse for a few weeks, and then when you open the bag up, it's literally bone dry.
Okay.
And the drier the better. Yeah.
Fantastic. Louise is in, as said, enjoying a G&T there in central Portugal. Let's have a look at your pictures for the evening then, shall we? And then we've got a picture question to go to Anna in just a moment. Some lovely flowers from your garden there, Louise. Fantastic. And your carrots. Oh, corkers. What a love. I'm just going to take your comment off the screen so we can see them properly. But they're beautiful. What fantastic carrots. Isn't that great?
Yeah, I'm literally trying to reach into the computer screen here to try and grab them.
Yeah, make sure you eat your carrots because they help you to hear in the dark, apparently, as well. What else have we got? Peas, look at that. And a few of those might have even made it to the pot as well. Look at that. What a fantastic pea harvest as well.
Do you mean to see in the dark there, Carl?
Yeah, well spotted, John. Okay, great job. Thank you very much, Louise. Thank you, Deagle. We always love your pictures. 913-590-303. Send them in via WhatsApp. We also got this picture that way, didn't we, Anna? This is I don't know what's happening here, Lee, and what's the question? Do you know, Anna?
Can't really see the picture to do
that one.
It's a lily of some sort, is it?
It is a red lily, I believe, from Amy.
Yes. Where are we? I couldn't remember if I'd covered this question, but I think I have noted it down. I'll just see if I can. Yeah. I haven't actually written it down in front of me, but I've got it here. I have some sort of bug that is eating the leaves and flowers on my plant as soon as they start to grow. I use a spray of oil, water, and dish soap that helps some. Any suggestions? I was looking at it. I think I was almost getting slightly confused with vine weevil and lily beetle, because I think I have actually come across lily beetle before, and I wondered if it might have been that. But yeah.
Good guess, Anna.
Yeah, it possibly very possibly could be, but she's doing the right thing with the soapy water. A little bit of neem oil in it won't do any harm either, so she's doing the right thing. If it's, I can't really see on the picture, is it a potted plant or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might actually be worth to pot it on as well and get. If you put it on, you're creating more space in it, which, as we keep talking about, it allows airflow and a bit of movement and a bit of root growth. So maybe pot it on and carry on treating it with your wash-up liquid and neem oil mix. It should be fine. But that treatment needs to be an ongoing process. So you need to do it every week, every 2 weeks for, again, 4 or 5 visits, because you're never going to get rid of them all on the first whack. So, yeah.
Okay. Old gardening phrase from the north of England there, I suspect. Brilliant, Amy. Thank you very much for that question. Keep washing your bugs. You got to keep washing them, not so they think, oh, this is nice, bit of a jacuzzi, until they are truly bothered by it. With a bit of neem oil as well. Let's go see what's in the chat and in the comments. Where's my mouse gone? Oh, there it is. Okay, fantastic. Mark's in too. Great to see you, Mark, this evening. And Jason, of course. I got a bit of a video to show you from some of our patio gardening. We've got a front lawn, but we're mainly patio out the back. And Mrs. M's done a great job, so I'd love to show that. Bon dia, Alaska in the house from Marty. What is the national vegetable of Alaska, Marty? Do let us know. Pete says vertical gardening is great in cities, to Matty, but in the countryside in summer or even now, it could be wasteful in terms of water. Well, if you've got the space, you probably don't need to, do you? Boa tarde todos from Jason and mate, tuning in with the fam. Great, fantastic. I thought you said from the farm, but and from the farm. With the fam, from the farm, enjoying a bottle of Casa the jazz juice. What's it? Is that his wine or his gin? What would that be?
Bit of wine. I was speaking to him earlier. I'm having a dry day today because I've had a bit of a wild weekend, and we're having a conversation while he was drinking wine out of a jug. I was a bit upset about it. Felt a bit jealous.
Some of his own wine, fantastic. How's it tasting, Jason? Do let us know. Hi, Matty. Louise says, I think I've seen that YouTube video on vertical gardening. I grow cucumbers vertically at the end of my tomato supports. It's a great way to maximize ground space for other veg. That's a pretty smart move. A good hack, isn't it, Lee?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect, especially if you do up another support. I used to do tomatoes in hanging baskets, tumbling toms on my pea supports in England. So I have my pea frame with the netting on it, and at each end will be a hanging basket with tumbling tomatoes on. Again, it gets them off the ground, keep them away from insects, and it gives you some picking.
Fantastic.
So it's the kind of vertical gardening I like. Yeah.
Superb,
but again,
great.
It takes a lot of water in because they're suspended. So you've got to weigh up the water usage when you're doing stuff.
It's always the way, isn't it, with gardening? You know, you try something with it, which then means something else. The variables are always changing, aren't they? It's a many moving parts. It's like a combination log, and one thing will lead to another, and that's the joy of it, isn't it? I think we had a meme in the group. There are no failures; there are only experiments in the garden, right? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but you could use the water circular reuse. Oh, so a cyclical watering system could be quite useful, couldn't it? On the matter of fermented fruit, then that Jason's drinking, 13.5%. We're thinking, but what's it made of? Is it your own grapes or some other fruit there? It would evaporate pretty quickly, says Pete, in the summer heat here in Portugal, but great further north, as Luis will demonstrate. Top banana. I thought he'd had fermented banana. But no, I'm thinking it's grapes. What an awesome feeling that must be. Great job, Jace. Do send us a photo if you want to, if you can be bothered. You might be just feeling very laid back right now. Hi, fellow gardeners from Montana. How you doing there, OLP? I haven't seen much of you recently. How are you doing? And Jazz is saying, more awesome with each glass, lol. It's going down well. Congrats, Deagle. Not tried storing in sand. We tend to eat as much as is seasonal as it crops, then freeze either as it is or prepped meals, or can bottle the remainder. So many other preservation techniques. Isn't that fantastic? There. T-Duck saying, smash that like button or give us a thumbs up. That's fantastic. Thanks for that reminder. And wonder if I can do a tasting once I'm back in Portugal. If there's any left, maybe, Matty, when you go and see Jason. Great question from Marty, are there lots of different sorts of tomato plants widely available in Portugal?
Yes, loads.
Okay.
Made a bit of a faux pas with ours this year. I bought plugs from the local store, and I thought I was buying plum tomatoes that would come up on a tall stalk, and it seemed like I bought the creeping plum tomatoes. So my veg bed there, I only trying to minimise the amount I was growing, so I've only put 9 in, and they've just gone wild. I've cut so much foliage off today; it's been ridiculous. But loads of toms. I'm growing creepy tomatoes on a frame, so God knows how. Not that it's wrong. It's just an experiment now, so we'll find out in the end.
Very good. Hope to see that. Spider mites can be devastating, says Tito. Oh, Anna or John, if you see anything, do say so that takes your fancy. Spider mites can be devastating in a greenhouse or indoors. I guess they like it, don't they? They like the environment. And Pete can't stand them, hates the spider mites. Another solution is natural predators. You can use Ambuliaceus californicus. Go on, John.
On a completely different note, just to let you know, you can obviously, if you, as people have been sending questions in already, but if you did forget to let the terrific Anna know about your question, or have only just thought of one this very moment or in the last few minutes of the show, you can in fact let us know right here in the comments, whether that's on Facebook or on YouTube.
Great job, John. And yes, we're live right now at 20 minutes to 7 o'clock here in Portugal. Ladybugs, I think, would they be fond of the spider mites?
Oh, yeah. Ladybugs eat everything. They're fantastic predators.
It's
but again,
weird.
They're only good for greenhouses, realistically. You can't let them go in the wild because they just clear off and leave you alone. Spend a fortune just to fly away.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
In the greenhouses, yeah. We used them a lot in commercial greenhouses, yeah.
Wow, they've got a lot going for them. They're beautiful, but they're killers. They're quiet, beautiful assassins with wings. Superb. Phil Ruff is here. Hello, Phil. Great to have your company tonight. And thank you for your email. Didn't forgive me for my rudeness, Phil. I got your email. Thank you very much for that. I think of vertical farming and permaculture orchards seem similar. In physical space. What's that? The kind of bang for buck, the footprint. Would you agree with that, Lee?
No, the vertical gardening is going to be is going to become more and more popular. It already is popular. It's going to become more and more of a thing. And it's going to be done more indoors as well. It's going to be done more under artificial lights. It's going to be done more in aqua systems. So it's going completely opposite way to permaculture. Vertical gardening is going to become the way to feed the world in the future. So
very interesting, very interesting. Phil may well be referring, of course, to forest gardening / permaculture, where you're looking at the canopies, right? But it's not. It's not as intense.
Forest gardening and permaculture is the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not going to be intensive like vertical farming by the sound of it, as you envisage it there, Lee. Pete, I think we're slightly further south central than you are. Lots of ground cover and water recycling. Rebuttal of that northern accusation. Go on, John.
Right, okay, go and get your balloon.
Go ahead, John.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah.
John,
oh, he's gone. I was just going to ask Louise, is he returning? Yes, he is returning. Excellent.
Sorry.
I was just going to say...
We had a balloon disaster.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Does start a bit of a conversation. With this, the vertical gardening, yes, make sure you don't say virtual accidentally. Vertical gardening, and maybe taking over from permaculture. Do you think that's going to mean that obviously we need to do different sort of gardening training then, and obviously we'd need to try and if this was the case, we obviously need to train people who are already in gardening jobs so that they have the skills so that they don't say lose their job or lose work in the future when vertical gardening is a lot more bigger and a lot more domineering than permaculture in terms of the gardening world.
Good interjection, sir.
I should really separate the two because you've got vertical gardening, which people do when they're growing a small amount of veg in their own garden, or they're growing plants on the wall in baskets, trays, bags. I've seen some great ones done with recycled sheets off the side of HGV wagons. Little water sources kept in them. I've actually got one around the back of the shed, actually. I should go and get it and show you in a bit. And vertical food production is going to become far more industrial and intensive. And that's going to be more like warehouse work than actual farming. It's going to be done by people in white robes testing pH levels in water systems. It is a different skill, and it's become more affordable with the new LED lights and the new air filtration systems and water systems that have been developed over the last 15 years by the marijuana growth industry. So it's quite interesting, but it's a completely different subject to what we do here. Yeah.
And they're going to be technicians, aren't they? They're going to be agri-technicians, really, aren't they, rather than farmers or growers?
Yeah.
In the way that
I'm going to take you for a walk because I've actually got one in the garden.
Go on, let's do this.
I've actually got a vertical system here in the garden. We've got strawberries in it. I've only ever used it for strawberries. It's only ever been used for strawberries. So I don't know if you can see this. It's on a. Is that in the picture? This wooden frame.
Oh yes.
Right. So it's a wooden frame. It's got bags in it, and the bottom of the bag there is water, and there's a bag beneath that one there. And so the strawberries are kept in the top, and you water the top. The water goes into the bag, and you can just leave it for weeks and weeks. So that's a vertical. Is that on the camera? Because I can't really see.
Yeah. We got you on full screen.
Yeah. So that's one type of vertical, and then I've got.
Oh, we're going out of Wi-Fi connection possibly now.
In my good pile. Kitchen, so I can sit down and do it properly. I'll come back to the kitchen. I've got better signal. This is one I've not used for a long time, but this is just it's a green pouch, the wooden bar at the top to hang onto the wall.
Yeah.
The soil goes into the bag where my hand is there. You can see it very well. So you put your plant in there, It's on the same system. You put water in the top to water your plants. It goes into the bag at the bottom, and that has some wicks that come up into the soil, so the water stays fresh. But you can hang 5 or 6, one over the top of the next, over the top of the next, and you can create a full wall of greenery. But I don't really use it because I don't have it on the wall.
And did you say they're made from the sidings of HGV vehicles? They're old, like really hard-wearing plastic.
Yeah, it's recycled HGV. The sheets that go on the side of them. It's a great way to recycle that material because they last forever. They last for a long time.
Yeah.
The bag I've shown there, it's not a good demonstration. It's all greased up. But when they're flat, you can have when you put the soil in, it opens like a pouch. Yeah. So it's thin at the bottom, wide at the top, and you hang the next one beneath it and the next one beneath that. So eventually the bag's become invisible because all the greenery from the plants is coming over the top of it. So you can create a full wall, and in the space of no time, all as the plants grow, the bags become invisible, and you water from the top, and all the water down into the bags, and it just self-contained. Yeah.
Very good. Theme of the evening then, vertical gardening. Thank you for that, Lee. And Louise does the cucumber hack just for cucumbers in central Portugal, possibly south of you, Peter. We've discovered this evening. Mark, hoping to be in Portugal, but this evening, all from a sunny Norfolk. Been having a few plot twists recently. Good to hear that things are going in the right direction, Mark, and lovely to have you here tonight. Pete, I may have to try that. My cucumbers and toms are great, but the strawberries are a disaster this year. Well, that's not so good, is it? Maybe that might be useful for those that like a little more shade, blueberries, etc. With the shade that the vertical growing brings. Does storage need to be wooden or plastic boxes for your sand storage? A question from Deagle there, Lee.
I used to use the wooden veg crates because I had an abundance of them. But I know a lot of guys that just use the plastic ones with the grated base on it. That's why I like to put newspaper in first. So yeah, I used to use like the wooden veg boxes you see in all the vegetable shops and supermarkets. That's what I used to use.
Vintage business, yeah, very good.
Yeah,
all right.
But the lad on the plot next to me used to use big, like the plastic bread trays that the bread man used to bring along.
Yes, yeah, they got borrowed. Yeah. They got borrowed off the baker by the sound of it. Okay, fair enough. And you can stack them if they're that sort of construction. Very good. Lot of love for your garden tonight, Deagle. Loving the variety from Louise and impressive garden, fella, from Pete there. Anna, any more from you?
I think we've got 5 that I've got in front of me at the moment. I don't quite know everyone's names apart from the titles. We've got Solar Life Portugal has just messaged one in just recently on breaking and twisting stems. Would it work on tomatoes as on other herbs I've grown? And I'm not quite sure what they mean by this one, but Lee, do you know if they can use the Carl Cushman technique on other veg?
Very good.
I'm not sure what the Carl Cushman technique is, to be honest.
All right. Well, we will find out and get back to you on that. But what's this breaking and twisting business that Pete wants to do and torture his plants with?
Breaking and twisting tomatoes. I heard that, and I'm not really sure why you would break and twist your tomatoes. I prune off my unwanted tomato shoots, and I don't see why you would twist and split other tomato shoots. I'm not sure what he was referring to be honest.
I think he's borrowing from a different kind of agriculture, possibly Carl Cushman and Hindu Cushman, by the sound of it. Thank you for that, Anna. Thank you for that, Pete. And let's see what else is coming in via the chat. Lovely carrots and peas, Louise. It's true. We store squash and sweet potato in plastic crates as they are dry fruits, says Louise. But if it needs to breathe, then we would recommend wooden boxes. But I think the head gardener happy with either. Hey, look, Eric's in from Mexico. We also have problems at times with bees eating the leaves of flowers. That was to Amy's question earlier on. A spray of water and soap combined with a more windy place. So you can use nature and use the wind chill factor for insects as well. Would you agree, Lee?
Well, yeah, it works. Not so much here because we're pretty sheltered from the wind.
Yeah.
But I know in my garden up in Scotland, I would move stuff out into the wind there, just to get that clean air flow going through that we talk about so often. It really does help with mold. It helps with fungus that might develop in tight-grown pot plants. Yeah,
brilliant. Bit of fresh air is good for us all, isn't it? A great tip, Lee. Louise, appreciating some of your guidance tonight. Thinking of the water usage in these vertical gardens, a pump powered by a solar cell could pump the water from bottom up to top and reuse the water this way on a circular system. Yeah, Matty's really attached to this idea, I think. I think you should try it, innovate it, Matty, with your passion for it. It's our first vintage Touriga Nacional and Serra grapes. Nice one, Jason. Oh, sounds fabulous. Lee, you should indeed count the weight of the water. Don't be like the architect who forgot the weight of the books when designing a library, only to find out it's sinking after the build. Water's heavy, isn't it? For sure. So always factor that in. Yep. Sounds smooth, Jason. Smooth jazz. We also have Touriga Nacional, but with Alicante. This year will be our first vintage. Isn't that fantastic? Yeah, Touriga Nacional is the big grape of Portugal, of course, isn't it? Question. Oh, yes. So we've done that. The Carl Cushman mentioned there. Paul Louise Lottie sounds fantastic, says Jazz. Such a satisfying process from start to finish. Best of luck with it. The viniculturists talking to each other. Vertical gardening is a lot more expensive to create crops as artificial lighting, especially given energy costs. So higher energy costs, higher watering costs. Pete's not a fan. Matty is. We've had a good wet start to May after almost 6 months, approximately 50% rainfall in Belfast. I collect harvest rainwater in large kitchen bins, 90 litres. Really don't know how Portugal does it, with the dry conditions. Sorry, Lee, you were going to add something there.
Yeah, the issue with the electric use for the vertical gardens, they're using LED lights, which are an energy-saving light to start with, and now they're using small strips that are directly above the plant tray. Loads of YouTube videos on it. Some I considered a while ago. There's a lot of people going microgreens in small spaces. It seems to work really well, and it is cost effective. It does because you can create the perfect conditions to grow the plants, so you're getting bumper crops all the time because you can manipulate everything about it. So
yeah, absolutely. Lighting has been revolutionized, hasn't it, in the last 10 years? It's not like the old days, Pete, when you lit up your whole roof and the helicopter could see it. Things have changed a little bit now, mate. I believe what Lee is talking about is similar to what organic in the US is like. Says it's called aquaponics. It's already being done. Well, it's interesting because these things are converging, aren't they? That's with fish, says Pete. Hydroponics, if you don't want to spend all day cleaning tanks. Go on, Lee.
There is a slight difference between the vertical growing and aquaponics, but they are technically the same. Technically the same thing. It's gonna aquaponics uses a lot of water. The vertical indoor growing of veg might be done on more like a mat system, even like a conveyor belt system. But yeah, it does. It all kind of folds into each other, and it's going to become more and more popular.
Yeah, and exciting times. I think all of these little disciplines learning from each other, of course. Lee needs to change over to the mycelium network. That's when we lost you and your signal. He's a fun guy. He's Phil. Where we have the space, it doesn't make sense for vertical gardening unless you want to create a display. Oh, a bit of contention tonight. This is interesting. This is always the way, isn't it, when gardeners get together? People, man cave greeting from Andy and a butard from him. Sorry, I was late. I was speaking to Owen. You're quite forgiven. Matty, are you on the road? And Andrew, you're welcome from Eric. And Pete to Louise. I will have my first homemade fig aguardente in a few months. Have to compare our vintages. That sounds lovely as well. And I think, what is it? Matty and Andy are just comparing notes on when they're leaving their countries. Get yourselves over here, fellas. Lee, it creates a kind of hubs in the stems, which produces, this is the twist and crush, I think, which produces bigger water and nutrient highways. And in theory, much bigger fruits with a little bit of a pinch and a twist.
I do. I do. it came to mind after I said I didn't realise what we were talking about. It kind of came to mind. I saw a few people on YouTube, never done it myself, where they snick the stem as well to encourage green growth. It's not something I do. It's not something I've not got the time. So
okay, Lloyd Long is it as well. Hello, Lloyd. Great to have you here. And 3 peas in a pod as well. Any more questions from you, Anna? I've got a video I want to play.
We've got 3. I'm just trying to work out which one to go with. We've got one from Steph Wynn, who is north of Nazaré in Portugal, has a question on chard. Just been tidying my veg patch and noticed that my chard looks very dusty. Some leaves are very white but could be wiped off. Apparently rainbow chard is what they have. It wasn't quite worded as a question, but I'm guessing that's what can be done. What is it?
It sounds like dew. It sounds like mildew. So without a photo, I would use a mixture of milk and water. I can't remember the exact mixture that is, but if you Google it, milk and water for mildew, you'll come up with a recipe for it. Dead simple, works really well. Yeah.
Marvellous. Anna, carry on. And John, we understand if you have to leave.
Let's have a look. We have, I'm trying to work out which one to go with next. We have one from a fairly new member. We have one from Estelle Davis-Jones, who's in central Portugal. In need of plant tips and drought tolerance. Any tips on plants would be great. We'll be back out in Portugal Wednesday at last. We'll be starting on my garden again and have limited water supply at the moment. So any drought tolerant plants, apart from sedums, already has lots of those.
I'd go for if you're coming and going a lot, like it seems you are, because you're going to come back. I would go for the succulents. Start looking at the cactus and stuff like that. Have a look in your area, see what the people are growing in their garden, succulent-wise, see what's going on, and create a garden designed around using no water at all. It'll be perfect. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And I think you've got one more. That's a great question and a great answer. Thank you, Lee.
Fiona has sent one in following last week's question. I think I did write it down somewhere. Following last week's question, she would love more information on best positioning. It said whether to add anything to the soil, manure, wood ash, mulch, and how much water, etc. to use. And I'm just trying to see if I've got the. I think I've got the question from
last week. Was grafting, I believe.
Yes,
grafting
yeah.
Yeah. Each fruit tree comes with its own desire for sunlight, shade, lack of wind. So Google that, have a look to see. I'm not sure what plants you're going to be putting in. If I remember correctly, it was oranges was one of them. So they don't like the frost, so get them up on the hill. Get them as high as possible. With the grafts, I've already said you should try and keep them in pots for a year or two, but they will need regular watering to make sure they don't dry out. When you're planting the trees or your whips, you should always try to add a bit of compost to the base, to the bottom of the hole, and then packing around it. And then water immediately and water regularly for the first few weeks, just to make sure that they get a good foothold. And you'll notice when you're watering it that the soil will sink a little bit around the tree. So it's a good opportunity to get your foot in and stamp in and make that little trench around the tree so you can water directly and save water.
Great stuff. Excellent. Okay, it's been great to have you here with us tonight. And you're suggesting that neem oil with garlic and chili powder make a best DIY pest repellent. Nice marinade as well. If you've got any left over, I would have thought there. Thank you for joining us. I think we've seen you before, but thanks for being here tonight for sure. And what do you reckon? Andy says, I've got the garden lawn like a fairway, Lee. How's your neighbour with the magnolia? You'd be proud. Would you be proud, or should he just rip it up and grow some proper food?
You know I like a lawn. My lawn's looking quite good.
Yeah, I couldn't draw you on that, could I? Lee, you have a memory like a sieve. No oranges, no grafting, planting banana, mango, Well, a memory like a sieve. That's a useful gardening thing, isn't it? If only you could put your soil through it. No grafting, planting banana, mango, anona, papaya, and moringa, but it's okay. I'm Googling each as I go. Well, we're trying to help you, Fiona.
Somebody was asked the question last week about grafting. I'm sure that was Fee. But the banana really doesn't like the frost, so that needs to be somewhere going to be frost protected. And it gets a really big leaf on it as well, which are troubled by high winds, and it'll split the leaf. So it needs to be like a real good protected spot for the banana. And they do like plenty of water as well.
There you go, Fiona. Thanks for joining us tonight. Much appreciated. We'll finish now. Now I want to show 2 minutes of video. This is from our garden here, where Louise has been doing an amazing job. Mrs. M has done a fantastic job. I keep meaning to show pictures, but I keep getting bumped by all the lovely pictures that come in from everybody else, who should, of course, have priority. But this is the moment for Mrs. M to shine, and the amazing amount of fruit and veg and produce and growth and just beauty that she's created with a small front lawn, and you'll see it in the video, and a paved backyard where we also have 3 chickens. Thanks, everybody. It's been amazing. It's flown by so quickly as usual. Cheers, head gardener Lee McGrady. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, John. Here's that video, and thank you to everybody who sent in questions and made comments tonight. Here we go. Mrs. M, the gardener.